There is a specific kind of terror that sets in right before you have to make a choice you can never undo. The mind locks up, entirely unable to choose an action because it is paralyzed by the cost of the consequences. We treat this analysis paralysis like a symptom of the modern world, but it is an ancient human condition, one we can trace back thousands of years to the sacred battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here, two massive armies stood ready for war. Thousands of warriors gripped their swords and drew their bows, waiting for the first strike of a conflict that would tear a nation apart. In the middle of this vast formation sat Arjuna, the greatest archer of his time, guided by his charioteer, Lord Krishna. Before the horn sounded, Arjuna asked Krishna to drive their chariot directly into the no-man's land between the lines, so he could look his opposition in the eye. The reality of the enemy line broke him. He did not see monsters. He saw his beloved grandfather, his most respected teachers, his uncles, and his lifelong friends. The psychological weight of what he had to do manifested physically. Arjuna's heart grew heavy in his chest, and his hands began to shake uncontrollably. Overwhelmed by sorrow, he let his legendary bow, Gandiva, slip from his fingers. He sat down, choosing total surrender over a victory built on the blood of his family. Arjuna's paralysis stems from a total fixation on the outcome. He has become so attached to preventing a catastrophic result that any movement forward feels like he is personally inviting ruin. Krishna addresses the collapse by dismantling Arjuna's understanding of existence itself. He begins with logical proofs, later recorded in manuscripts like this one, to reframe the archer's perspective. He explains the physical body is temporary, discarded and replaced, like changing old clothes. Inside that temporary body resides the eternal soul, an indestructible entity. No weapon can cut it, fire cannot burn it, water cannot wet it, and wind cannot dry it. This creates a fundamental contradiction in Arjuna's grief. If the core of a person is truly eternal and indestructible, then the destruction of the physical body represents a change in state, rather than a final ending. With the absolute fear of death neutralized by this logic, Krishna pivots from metaphysics back to Arjuna's immediate reality on the dirt of the battlefield. He reminds Arjuna of his Dharma, his duty. As a warrior, his inherent obligation is to protect truth and justice. That responsibility supersedes all personal feelings. Abandoning this core responsibility out of fear or personal attachment to his family is not an act of compassion. It is a fatal dereliction of duty. But Arjuna is left with a lingering, entirely human question. Even if the soul is eternal, how can a person physically step forward and fight when they are paralyzed by the fear of failing? Krishna answers with a precise psychological rule. You have the right to perform your duty, but you have zero right to the fruits or the results of those actions. He maps out exactly how outcome dependency traps the mind, starting with a constant obsession over worldly pleasures and outcomes. That obsession creates a deep, uncontrollable attachment, and attachment inevitably breeds desire. When the universe naturally frustrates that desire, it instantly mutates into destructive anger. This anger clouds judgment, destroys all acquired wisdom, and leads directly to the individual's total downfall. The antidote to this cascade of cognitive failure is detached action. You must do the necessary work with absolute sincerity while completely surrendering any need to control what happens next. True mastery over action means operating at maximum capacity and focus in the present moment, while remaining completely indifferent to both spectacular success and crushing failure. Back in the physical reality of the chariot, nothing has changed. The massive armies are still waiting. The mortal threat is exactly as lethal as it was 10 minutes ago. But internally, the mechanics of his fear have broken down. The confusion has cleared, leaving behind a steady, focused resolve where there was once only hesitation. He reclaims his weapon. He is no longer fighting for revenge or personal gain, but acting in calm, absolute submission to truth and justice. Before the first arrow is loosed, the extremal war has been preceded by an internal resolution. The dialogue between the archer and his guide provides a template for action that would eventually influence millions far beyond this battlefield. The directive left for us is entirely actionable. When you face impossible choices or paralyzing fear, separate the action from the outcome. The truest victory is never won on an external battlefield. It is achieved internally by mastering your own mind, executing your sincere duty, and completely letting go of the results.